This is the OM-3, and I have to say I can't remember another camera that has left me with so many mixed feelings. Is it the most beautiful camera of the last 10 years? Yes, it is. Is it packed with impressive features? Definitely. But as a long-term Micro Four Thirds photographer, would I buy the OM-3? I'm not sure. Welcome to Adventures in Aperture. First up, full disclosure, OM System loaned me this OM-3, but they don't get any input on my review, which is always the case. Now, in my opinion, this is a very important camera for OM System. Back in the Olympus days, the brand was popular with street photographers who particularly gravitated towards the EM5 series of cameras, and for good reason. Small, discreet, and excellent for pairing with one of Olympus's small, fast primes, they hit the pavement in search of street photography. But fast forward to the OM System days and the focus seemed to shift towards landscape, nature and wildlife, and this was backed up by the launch of the OM-1 and the OM-5 cameras. But we'll come back to the OM-5 in a moment. First, the OM System appears to have widened OM System's net to once again appeal to street photographers, and for my money, that's a good thing. Let's start with the design and build of the OM-3. At its heart is the 20 megapixel stacked CMOS sensor found in the OM-1 Mark II, and matching the sensor from the brand's flagship camera is a good thing. The body is IP3 rated to protect against dust and moisture, as you'd expect, which when paired with weather-sealed OM System lenses will deliver a pretty robust setup. But we can't go any further without talking about the design. This is the most beautiful camera with endless retro chic touches, another reason it will appeal to street photographers. Its milled dials, classic aesthetic and colour coding make the OM-3 not just one of the best looking cameras over the last 12 months, but I would argue one of the best looking cameras over the last 10 years. This is a brand that has rich pedigree in classic designs. Now, without going too far back into their analogue cameras, the Pen F was a superb looking mirrorless, and OM System have hit a home run with the OM-3. However, there are one or two things about the design that need to be pointed out. First up, the good bits. I love the dedicated dial for stills and video modes, and I love the milled design of the dials, as I've already mentioned. However, the video record button is tiny and horribly placed, making it a hassle to locate and activate. But there's a bigger problem, and in a way the OM-3 is a victim of that beautiful retro design. The flat profile of the front of the camera doesn't help the grip, and while this isn't a problem with lighter lenses, it doesn't make for a great experience with heavier zooms. I wish the OM-3 had delivered this retro look, but with the dimensions and grip of the OM-5, which is a pleasure to use. And this sets the narrative for the review. There are many things that make the OM-3 a great camera, but there are other elements that annoy me, and at the root of this is the fact that the OM System's flagship camera, the OM-1 Mark II, is such a good camera that I'm constantly comparing the two with, when in reality, if we set the price to one side for a moment, the OM-3 clearly sits below the OM-1, and of course, it won't have every bell and whistle. For example, the OM-3 only has one SD card slot, unlike the two found on the OM-1, and this means you can't make an instant backup of your images or set one card to record stills while the other captures video. The OM-1 has a much higher resolution EVF than the OM-3, but that's not enough to drastically reduce the user experience. And there's no AF joystick on the back of the OM-3. In fact, its rear button layout mirrors that of the OM-5. While there may be one or two things missing from the OM-3, there's plenty this camera does offer, and one feature I'm surprised to see on this camera is the computational features found on the OM-1 Mark II. Now, there's actually a whole video dedicated to that very clever live graduated ND filter feature on this channel in case you want to learn more about it. But this landscape-centric feature could come in very useful with street photography to balance out exposures in the scene. I did try this out with a few different situations, and the live graduated ND really does work and is very impressive, and that marks OM System out from the crowd. And then there's the built-in ND filter mode, offering 6 levels of power from ND2 to ND64, which will artificially slow down the shutter speed, enabling users to introduce blur into the frame. Perfect for blurring people out who are passing by in the city, or if you're shooting some landscapes, you can blur moving water without the need of an ND filter, or you can combine this feature with a physical ND to increase its effect. The OM-3 has the excellent subject detection features from the OM-1, and the autofocus on the whole works really well, even when I was using the much longer 100 to 400mm Olympus lens, where focus hunting can be a bit of an issue. The battery is decent and rated to 590 shots on a single charge, but more important is the fact that the charge connection is USB-C, not micro USB like the OM-5, a fact that really bugs me. What's more, the menu system matches the newer version found in the OM-1, not the older style one from the OM-5. In practice, the creative dial on the front plate works really well, enabling you to quickly switch between mono, colour, art and CRT. And this is where the OM-3 really comes alive, opening the doors to getting creative with all those different art and mono modes, so you can shoot creative images instantly without needing them to process them on the computer. Remember, as a safety net, you can shoot JPEG in the creative style and a RAW file simultaneously to the single SD card, so you have a backup in case you want to try a different editing style down the road. My favourite mono mode was option 2, which delivered a harder contrast effect. My favourite art filter was the vintage options, and there's 3 to pick from, so you can have lots of fun with them. Though I wouldn't buy the OM-3 if you mainly shoot video, it can shoot 4K 60p, boosts the slow and quick mode along with the OM Vlog 400 colour profile, and the OM-3 is the first OM system camera to offer OM Cinema modes, which aims to give cinematic footage without the need to colour grade later back at the computer. There are ports for a mic and a headphones, meaning external audio can be both captured and monitored. But in reality, my Panasonic G9 has far more video options, and the OM-3 was never going to be the model to take the video fight to Panasonic, so we could park that area there. No, this is the camera to be enjoyed while out for the day in the city, taking creative photos and letting your arty juices flow. But here's why I personally struggle with the OM-3. First up, the lack of grip does bother me. For a walk around the town centre, I'd actually prefer the OM-5, which is smaller, lighter, more discreet, and has, the same plenty art filters to get creative with. What's more, I'm not a big street shooter. I prefer landscapes, and so the powerhouse OM-1 is then more preferable for me, thanks to that second SD card and the unbeatable weather ceiling. That said, the fact that the OM-3 has the computational ND and live graduated ND is impressive, so it widens its appeal to those who may balance street, travel and landscape photography. So, how do I summarise the OM-3? Well, as I said at the start, I have really mixed feelings. Putting the £2,000 or $2,000 price tag to one side, OM system cameras seem to be regularly discounted, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to that. The OM-3 is a really beautiful camera that will appeal to purists of photography, and I think it will be a huge success for OM system. It's a camera I really enjoyed using and feel like I should want to rush out and spend my money on it, but I don't think I will. The OM-1 and OM-5 I already own, not to mention the Panasonic G9 I also own, cover everything I need at the moment. And yet the specs of the OM-3 are impressive. Those 14-bit RAW files are impressive, although you do have the dynamic range limitations of a micro four thirds sensor. The high resolution mode that tops out at 80 megapixels works really well, and the autofocus is fast enough for pretty much every situation. This is a damn good camera. It's just not the right camera for me. But what do you think of the OM-3? I love reading your comments and try to reply to as many of them as possible, so please like, subscribe and comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.